like, this has been some bullshit.
I asked Josh, I said, is this easy or no? And he said it was going to be really easy and it's self-explanatory. Look at us.
So I thought you had it figured out, and I was like, I'm just going to let her do this, and I'll just kind of join in. And then Scott,
I had no idea what
yeah, Scott generally handles all of my electronic stuff. I'll be like, hey, I want to try this new platform out, and he'll be like, okay, see how far you can get, and then I'll come fix it for you. And he's gone to the grocery store though, because he had to go. Like, only one of us goes out. So at the same time, I'm trying to figure this out, and he can't help me because he doesn't understand what I'm doing. But also, like, he's not here, so he can't just come in and fix it for me. And then he's also like, did you mean pinto beans in the can? And I'm like, oh my God. Do you mean yellow corn? He's like, is white corn tortillas okay, or do they have to be yellow? And I'm like, oh my goodness, I don't have. I told you I was doing this at 3. I know it's like 5 o'clock, but this is just how it is.
What time is it, really? How long did it take us to get this going?
It's 4:14, so it took us an hour and 15 minutes.
Oh my God. Well, we're finally here. We did it.
Yeah.
I sent out like a feeler to see if anybody wanted to come on here with us, but now at this point, I don't even know if we can add anyone else, or if it would mess up.
We can do our best, and if one of us clicks out, the other one will just have to talk while
I asked
work it out.
Brittany Baize had interest, and Marissa Pender too.
Awesome. So if you want to, the link that I sent you, send it to them, and that will invite them to be on here.
So
for those of you guys,
if I'm on my phone, if I click off this, like, will I still be on the show?
You might go to a black screen.
Okay.
But why don't you go ahead and try that, and I'll just kind of tell everybody what's going on. So anyways, guys, if you're just tuning in, and she did click off, Dani Harris and I have decided to try to go to the Bluegrass Women's Jiu-Jitsu Club in a live stream where you can actually have video and audio and see us. So if you're tuning in, this should be on the Bluegrass Women's Jiu-Jitsu Club page. We are going live. She's sending out a link for some ladies who wanted to join us today. We're going to talk about a few things, and of course, we'll be able to just kind of bring people off and on. If you write one of us, if we don't have somebody on already, we'll be able to kind of send it out to you. And so kind of a really neat thing. Thank you, Lacey Hancock, for tuning in. We're going to talk about a few different things. I know that there are a few things that I've been noticing on social media, which social media has been driving me crazy with this whole coronavirus thing. I think we've been locked inside for about 3 weeks now. Oh, she's not connected. And so we're just kind of working it out, kind of moving on. We've had the gym closed, I think, 10th Planet Richmond since March the 18th, I think, was when the governor ordered that all gyms in Kentucky have to close. So, that's kind of what's been going on here. Dani just clicked off, so she'll have to click back on. But anyways, if you're tuning in, we're going to talk here in a few moments with some of the other ladies who wanted to join us today. And I'm going to send her a message and let her know that she needs to rejoin the link because I don't want to do this all by myself. If you can hear me pretty good, if you don't mind to just kind of send a comment. It doesn't go live on the screen here like Lacey's did unless I choose to let it. So if you can hear me nice and loud and clear, just go ahead and let me know. I'd really appreciate that. I see it says we have a few viewers already. So I really appreciate you guys that are tuning in. Somebody wrote me a message. But anyways, just go ahead and let me know if you can. Oh, thank you, Lacey. I appreciate that. Let me know that it sounds good. But anyways, we'll wait for Dani to come back on. A few things that we're going to talk about. I wrote some notes. So one of the things that I noticed that is kind of going on social media a little bit is there have been some different posts, and I think Josh LeDuc actually, who was the one who told Dani about the StreamYard. But I noticed he was posting about, let's see.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay.
Yeah. But anyways, I noticed that he was posting a little bit about some things going on, and we'll talk about that a little bit. Hard Rock MMA's possibly said that, didn't they send an email out to everybody saying that they're still going to have their make event?
Yeah, but that's stupid. That's just my opinion. Obviously, there was kind of a little argument between Lucy and
you're upside down, by the way. Mm-hmm.
Oh, again?
Yeah.
All right. Eli Lefford and Lucy kind of got into it on the Kelly Patrick Show page because, well, Jamil Muhammad's wife wrote on there and was like, isn't that stupid because there's no gym for anyone to train at right now? Why would you take a fight with no fight camp? And Lucy wrote on there and, like, agreed. And then Eli got on there and was like, a real fighter will fight whenever. Obviously, we can tell you're not a real fighter. And I was like, ooh, kind of a little shade being thrown.
Well, I think it's a thing of, like, do you have the ability to train or not? Like, I'm still training every day. My son is getting ready to turn 16 in a few days. He is almost my size, and he works out with, like, a lot of girls, like Alejandra Bentancur, who trains at Georgetown MMA, you know, just posted a memory about how big he is now. He's her size. Like, he spars with a lot of us. And, you know, Alex and Linda are both purple belts, and you know, he taps them out pretty well. And that's nothing that they wouldn't tell you themselves. But, you know, like, I have a really high quality training partner all the time.
Yeah.
And we train together every day. But there are people who don't have a training partner at all. And then there's also people, you know, and there's also people out there who, you know, like, I think it would be very difficult if I were like a white or a blue belt to really know how to train myself and then jump into MMA fight. Jiu-jitsu, like, yeah, like, I think white, blue belt, if you're training at home, sort of, like, I think that a week after this all gets settled, like, you should be able to jump into a jiu-jitsu match and it's no big deal. But MMA, like, I do definitely think that you need some time to train with good training partners and a very good coach. You know, in jiu-jitsu, you can tap out if something gets extended a little bit, but we're talking about broken noses, broken bones, really a much higher risk of death in mixed martial arts.
I completely agree, and that was my point too. Like, I'll do a jiu-jitsu match the week after this is over. I don't care. But a fight, like, especially if I'm preparing for a specific opponent, you know, I want different training partners. I want different looks, all those things. Is that Scott?
Yeah, he just got home. So he walked in, and I was like, hey, how you doing? I'm in the middle of our living room. I have an office where I usually set this stuff up, but I didn't do that today. Emily joined us, by the way. Emily Prince. She's also a gym owner in
Hey, guys.
Carrollton.
How's it going?
Yep. How are you guys? I didn't know this was going to be a video, and she sent me this link.
Yeah.
We tried a new approach today.
Yeah.
Hey, no, I like it. I like it a lot. It's definitely easier being able to see you guys than.
Yes.
I listened to the podcast last time it was on, and it sounded like I just kept talking over Dani like the whole time. It's because I couldn't hear her on my end at all. So Dani would say something, and it was like, oh, fuck it. I don't really care what she has to say. I would just say whatever. That is not what I was doing, I promise.
Well,
yeah, how are you guys?
I felt like I had like a really good quality headset for the audio podcast, and like at first Dani didn't, so I always felt like I sounded like I was talking over top of people too. So it wasn't just you.
It is nice to be able to see each other. That's for sure.
It is.
It feels like I've been going kind of crazy, like not seeing anyone really that. So I saw Emily's house actually the other day. Look, there's Brittany.
Brittany.
Hello.
So we have Brittany Baize, we have Emily Prince, and we have Dani and myself, obviously. How are you doing, Britt? Go ahead and talk a little bit since everybody's had a turn so far.
I'm good. How are you all?
Good.
Can we hear her?
Huh?
Can you hear her?
I can hear her. Emily, can you hear her?
Yes, I can hear.
All right.
I have Tristan here too. She's so excited she heard Dani's voice.
So, with everything going on, we're talking about having training partners and being able to compete. And Brittany, just right off the bat, what's your feelings on as soon as this is over with, being able to fight MMA or compete in jiu-jitsu? Or is it the same feeling towards both of those, or do you have kind of a different opinion on one versus the other?
I think it's gonna be more hype, dude, and like everyone's going on about how trash they're all gonna be when it comes back. Nobody's gonna be trash, dude. Like, I feel like everyone can deny it if they want to. It's whatever. Because I know people are getting shit for still training, but people are going to train, whether it be at home behind closed doors or they're just not going to post about it. Either way, the strong will find a way. Be it solo drills, finding training partners who are comfortable to do it, or whatever. But I think the hype will still be. I think it'll probably be bigger than ever.
See, I was thinking to myself, because like I was talking about, I have a training partner that lives right here with me that's really good. Like, I'm ready to say, hey, like, as soon as this is over, like a week after it's over, like, like, I'm ready to compete the week after we're able to get back out.
I feel that.
I can't hear Brittany at all. Gina, can you reiterate what she said a little bit? I can only see her.
Yeah, she's just saying that she feels like it's going to be real hype, like whenever we get back to where we can do things again. And she agrees, like as soon as this is over with, like she's ready for a match that following weekend.
Oh, fuck yeah. I'm ready to come for somebody's neck. Like, I'm so antsy. Like, I cannot wait to get back on the mat and do something. But, like, I don't know where I'm standing with my next fight. I was scheduled to fight Samantha Buttery on April 18th. Obviously, that's not going to happen right now. And they're trying to push it to May. But in like my personal opinion, I wouldn't be comfortable fighting until June or July, just because if we get to train in May, I want a real fight camp. Like, I've already been beat up once in the cage. I'm not trying to like go do something that I'm like not fully prepared for or don't feel 100% about. And I think anytime you're getting kicked and punched and all that stuff, I think you got to feel 110%. I haven't even seen my coach since, we've had this quarantine, because he's got kids and, everybody's trying to be careful. So I really haven't been around my MMA coach since this happened, and I feel like it just wouldn't be fair to do that.
I think that's the general consensus. Like, if you feel like, okay, a week after this is over, if you can compete in jiu-jitsu, yeah, let's do it. But like, I think it's to want to have a fight camp.
Yeah.
Right.
For sure. And I think Samantha's a super game opponent too, so I think I need to be.
Is she up at Pedigo, by the way? Because I keep seeing her wearing the Daisy Fresh, and does she move up there?
No, I think she's dating a boy there.
Oh, okay. See, I don't know anything about her.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know her. I don't really know her. We used to actually both train under Carlson Gracie. That's how I met Samantha. I was at a Carlson school, and so Samantha trained with Scott Hope down in Corbin, and I was training under Phil Perkins, and we were both Carlson. Mm-hmm. And before I left the affiliation, we had seen each other at various different events and stuff like that. So we were always friends. I mean, we have photos together, like being super cool. And like, she's a great girl, but a fight's a fight. So we'll be friends soon after.
So I guess what I would want to know is, we can start with Emily. Like, now that we're like I think a lot of us are kind of like in a position where we have somebody to train with, except for Dani. Like, how's your training going with your significant other, or like what's your daily training schedule?
So Randall and I don't train well together. It's funny because the kind of goes in the conversation we had last time, like how I can't coach my kids. Mm-hmm. Randall, I mean, I respect Randall and I respect Randall's jiu-jitsu, and I know he knows so much more than me. So when I say Randall and I don't train together, it's not that I don't trust him or that I think that I can't learn something from him. It's just, we just don't train well together at all. We've been married for, 15 years.
Oh my God.
I know. That's how I feel about it.
It's always funny to watch kids do the math. I'm this old.
Right.
Yeah, it's been a long time. It's been a long time. So I mean, we have trained, we have drilled, we haven't rolled, we haven't actually like full blown live rolled because he'll catch a charge. It's been a month and a half since he's trained.
I feel that.
It's bad. He basically has like the shakes right now. It's horrible. But yeah, so we still drill together. We do a lot of drilling. He's showed me a lot of stuff. So we're still moving. I don't know. When I go to compete, I do it super on a whim every single time anyway. So when I do go back to compete, I guess it's going to be just like it is every other time when I'm super not prepared. So I'm not too worried about it.
How about you, Brittany? How's
Cardio is going to be garbage.
How's training going with the famous Joe Baize?
I mean, you know, it is what it is. Kind of similar to Emily. Like, I'm really hard-headed. I ain't gonna lie, y'all. Like, you gotta yell at me for me to understand shit, and I do. I really don't mean to, but I feel like I just frustrate him. And but at the same time, like Emily said, like, it's cool being married to somebody who you know knows that much. But we've still been, after we get off work, we'll go out to shed and roll, and he'll show me a couple new, like, nifty little entries or whatever. And then it's I don't want to say that it's different because, I mean, we've always, I don't want to say always, but we've rolled together quite a bit, but it's just weird not having your other training partners there and stuff like that, I guess. But we've still been hitting it.
I mean, there's no break. That's kind of how I feel. Because, like, I was saying, I train, like, little Chris, my son, is, like, a really great training partner. But I'm not able to get a lot of rolling in because he is still, like, 16. And we have a hard time rolling together. But, fortunately, we have Scott here who, is a black belt and trains us. But I do have that issue of being able to, like, actually live roll. Like, we can't.
Well, I don't know if you feel so too, because I mean, I've seen, I've rolled with Chris. There's a little bit of size difference there too. So, like, my thing too is with rolling with Joe, there's such a big size difference. He can't do what he normally would do with men. Or, like, what I mean? I mean, he could, but it'd just be like I don't want to say a freebie, but like if he does what he does to other grown men to me, then I mean, I'm just going to get fucked up constantly.
Right. There definitely has to be a thing where there's some give and take, I think.
Right.
Go ahead, Diddy.
I can't hear Brittany, so I'm just trying to figure out. I took off my headphones. I'm trying to figure out a way to hear her better. Tabitha Rainey commented. Can you guys still hear me pretty good?
Yeah.
Tabitha Rainey commented on there, and she said 13 years married with her husband. There was a time that we could not train together. It was the same. That she didn't. It was her own insecurities and issues in comparing his jiu-jitsu journey to hers and how fast he moved up.
I used to do that with Randall a lot. And finally, it took me a long time to realize that Randall's jiu-jitsu is just so different from my jiu-jitsu and our builds, our style, like everything. So I finally quit comparing how I learn and what I do to him, if that makes sense. I will say, like, I think I get frustrated because it seems like when Randall teaches me, he gets super like, I don't think I'm a slow learner. It's just I like to break everything down so that I understand it my way. And he gets so frustrated. And I feel like if I was one of our students, somebody that paid and came into our gym, like, he wouldn't get frustrated with me, or he wouldn't treat me differently, I guess. So I think that's why I get annoyed and we don't work well together. If that makes sense.
I kind of agree. Actually, before I like even really did jiu-jitsu, like more seriously, I was in a like long-term relationship with a really good wrestler. He's a wrestling coach now, actually. But he could not teach me, like, we could not drill together and him try to teach me wrestling because it always ended in some type of like argument. So I see where you're coming from.
Yep.
I feel like I've never had an issue. Like when I first met Scott, he was my coach. That's who he's always been. He had almost 20 years of experience on me before I ever even started. And I think it was a thing of like, I definitely had to compartmentalize like coach and friend, and then afterwards, of course, spouse. But I've never really had an issue with that. I don't think. Like I would probably say that I get a little more pouty sometimes, but really for me, it's never anything to do with him so much as like I get really down on myself when I can't get something, and I know for a fact that I will pay better attention. Like say, because I do a lot of training, like out traveling to other places. I will pay better attention, I think, when I'm training under somebody else, but it's not out of like a disrespect for him. It's because there's nobody there to hold my hand through it. Normally I'm with Linda. And so like, I'm going to have to be the person that paid attention so that we get the technique right. And he's going to want to know what he's going to want to know.
Poor Linda.
I know. Well,
Poor Linda.
Not that. I mean, she gets stuff, but like when it comes down to like the two of us, like I do feel that pressure of like, okay, like out of whichever one of us is going to have to like make sure that we caught all the details, it's definitely going to have to be me, because like neither one of us are super detail oriented. He's listening to me, but like I have. It's a skill. Like it is definitely a skill I had to develop on how to pay attention to details. And, you know, I've learned that through training with him because he was my coach first. But like a little bit, I get this thing of like, well, he's going to hold my hand and like walk me through things that I would not expect somebody who's not that close to me to do for me. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. But we have another comment, Danny, if you want to read that.
It says, it's from Vicky. She trains with you, right, Gina?
Mm-hmm.
My husband and I are within 10 pounds of each other. We have the same amount of experience, and they have a mat at home, but there's not enough room to live roll without someone cracking their head on the fireplace. I agree. I live in a really small apartment. I actually broke a quarantine rule and went to Chattanooga, Tennessee. Like the past
You
2.5
can't be doing
weeks
that.
or so.
I can't believe this bitch crossed state lines. Oh.
I did. I went away. I stayed in Chattanooga for a couple. I've actually been down there twice and trained with someone that owns a gym. I only went around a few people, just trained a little bit, and then came right back home. I've been quarantined though. I don't feel sick. I'm fine.
I guess that leads to a question that I'd have for you guys, and Brittany can start first. Mr. Jiu-Jitsu, Michael Mijas, he posted a meme, and it said, if they open the gyms tomorrow, the governor's lifted all the restrictions, however, there was no cure and there's no vaccine, would you go train?
Absolutely, man. Whoever's going to catch it's going to catch it. I feel like even us quarantining is completely just blowing it out of the waters, which I'm not taking away from the severity, but you're just slowing things down at this point. Finally. But no, like I said, even if they didn't lift, whoever's going to train is going to train. But at the same time, whoever's going to catch it is going to catch it. I feel like at this point, you're doing nothing but making it, what's the word I'm looking for? You're being a hindrance to people's lives daily, trying to slow this thing down. If you take, which this is going to be a terrible comparison, so forgive me, but you take what happened in China, and, you know, it went on for months, but they're all finally, which you don't know how true they're being with us or whatever, but they're finally saying, oh, yeah, we got to calm it down. It ran its course. That's the thing. It ran its course. Let it run its course here, and then go on about your day. To me, it's just really pointless.
Emily, how about you?
I don't know. Man, my heart's like beating harder even thinking about it. Like, because it's harder. It's not like, okay, we're just going to go train. Like, we're opening a gym. So we're taking a responsibility, I guess, of other people. You know what I mean? So if they were to say, okay, and even if they were to say to open because the economy got so bad it has to open and they've not cleared it, medically, I don't know. You have to weigh so many odds. And Gina, I'm sure it's probably a lot of the ways you felt when you guys were deciding before they said we had to, if you were going to close the gym or not, because there's so many things you have to weigh that, like, it's not just jiu-jitsu. Like, the gym is what keeps people sober, or it keeps people from being depressed. I mean, we have quite a few addicts at our gym that it is like their meetings coming to train. So it's like, man, it is so important to get those guys in there. A lot of people might not understand that, but in the area where we are, yeah, it's super important to get them in there to train. But we also have to keep people healthy too. So I wish I could tell you, yeah, we would open tomorrow if they said we could, but I don't know. I don't even want to think about it. I'm glad I don't have to make that decision right now. I don't know.
How about you, Dani?
I feel like for you.
So even though I am like super immunocompromised, I was getting so depressed without training. It's been like such a big part of my life for such a long time. I think even after getting out of the hospital, I think I changed like 3 or was at the gym like 2 or 3 days later, just because that's where I go every single day. Especially living in Cincinnati by myself now, and I don't really have any other friends outside of the gym. That's my family. Like Marissa, Jeremy, Pinder are like my new family. So to be without those people and I can't even see them, it was getting really, really hard on my psyche. So I didn't go to Chattanooga because I felt like I wanted to rebel or I don't get the seriousness. Like I seriously needed to do physical activity. Not just jiu-jitsu, but like where I was going, it was pretty safe and it was only a couple people that I was being around, but I really needed to move, and I feel bad for doing it, but gosh, I was going crazy. I don't have a husband. I don't have kids. I have nobody to pester. I'm literally just sitting here alone. So as soon as the gym opens back up, I'll be joining my gym family again, and hopefully I don't catch anything and they don't catch anything. And I would hope that if someone feels symptoms or if someone was traveling hardcore and went somewhere for New York or somewhere for business and stuff, that they would not come in for a while and understand it. But it's kind of like trusting your teammates to do the right thing. Obviously, if I'm a healthcare worker and I was just working around all this stuff, I wouldn't be going in. Exactly. I mean, just what you're around. And I would like to think that teammates are smart enough to weigh those risks and be smart.
I mean, I feel the same about it as I did from the beginning. I don't want to catch the flu, and the flu is, has a much higher mortality rate for people who are already compromised and things like that. So I definitely don't want to get it. I don't want to be sick. I don't want to pass it on to somebody that it could do more damage to. But at the same time, if the gym opened up tomorrow, I would open up. And for me, there's a certain amount of responsibility that people have to take for themselves. If you know that it's if you know that it's, I mean, people should be free to make stupid decisions at some point. You know what I'm saying? And also there's that thing of if you know that you are more susceptible, you need to kind of stay away. But then there's things that make me nervous. Natalie obviously comes and stays with me because she was kind of in that same boat. She's at home, they live in these apartments. She can't even get outside and play. And she misses jiu-jitsu so bad. Even for a little kid, she was getting very emotionally distraught, not being able to
do anything.
Yeah. So she comes over and she stays with me because we train jiu-jitsu every day. We do yoga every day. We either run or lift weights every day. And she's able to get out in my yard without some neighbor kid getting in her space. So she need as much as we need to stay healthy, there are people like myself and even her as a kid that need to be doing shit for our mental health. And
yeah, I completely agree. That's where I was at. I mean, I was getting I was just upset.
Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know. I don't really know the right answer. I just, I know that I need it or I get in bad shape. But anyways, we'll move on from that.
Another topic I wanted to kind of talk about today, obviously, there's been some big sexual assault stuff come up
Yes,
recently.
I was
I'm
talking
sure
about
you've
that.
seen all of this with the school. And how would you? So there's been a couple incidents, I guess. The one that I have a question about, like for gym owners, the most is like for you and Emily, or Gina, for you and Emily. So Josh posted something today. Obviously, there's a guy in Florida that has charges of rape. Okay, and I'm not gonna say any names or whatever, but he's awaiting trial. Okay, but he's admitted to raping someone, but she was 17, so they're like, there's a lot of whatever. I'm not defending this man at all, but I'm saying now he's training at another gym, is welcoming him in, and letting him do privates for people and stuff. So now everyone's kind of following that gym. How do we keep people like that out of our gyms if you don't know that they have that type of pass? Like, what are you all, do you think it should be allowed? Should we stay out of their business? Like, what is your all's take on that?
Go ahead, Brittany.
Well, I mean, for gym owners, man, I feel like that's kind of their call and like what they feel is best for what's around them. I mean, I don't own a gym, so I can't really say, but if I was in their shoes, I guess I'd take into consideration, like Danny said, he was real young. I feel like if I was in that position, I would tell the guy, okay, we can't, I wouldn't feel comfortable him being around other women students, but now if you want to do like privates, have a couple people there with you and kind of go from there and see how it goes, I guess, and kind of play it by ear. But I feel like that's a really hard call for any gym owner. So, I mean, I can't really say.
I think Emily clicked off. She can rejoin us when she gets ready. But as a gym owner, there's like as a person, like there's two different things here. There's like the innocent until proven guilty. Like he's awaiting trial.
Yeah.
I
forgot to add, Brittany, I think I didn't explain this very good. He's a grown man, black belt, like old wife, kids, and then the victim is 17.
I'll stay out of gym then. Exiled. He don't need none of that. Exiled.
I think it's a thing of like there is a thing like of our judicial system of you are innocent until proven guilty. Because I mean we had somebody here in Kentucky who was accused of relations with a young girl, and he was adamant about the fact that he was innocent. And
oh, I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, we're not going to mention his name, but like one of our guys is like, hey, he wants to come train here, and I'm like, well, here's the problem. Has he been through his has he been what's it called when they drop charges and stuff?
Oh, I know. Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? So it was like he was adamant about the fact that he never had any relations with this girl. She had just told some people that because like he was like doing personal training for her, like in a gym. Like she had just told people because she thought he was attractive that like, yeah, she was, they were like interested in each other. But he was like, no, I am not with this girl. Like I have never touched this girl. Like she told her friend that she was interested in me. The friend told her mom. The mom went and told her mom, and the mom accused me. But he said, the court systems decided that he was not at fault. He hadn't done anything, like he maintained. He had a daughter. He had a young daughter who, I mean, if you're accused of like being inappropriate with a girl, like the course, and you have custody of your daughter, like they're going to come get that kid. So, it was a thing for me of like, they didn't find any just cause to think that it was true. The police and the court systems didn't find any reason to find that there was any substantiation of charges because they had like her cell phone, his cell phone. DCBS didn't feel like they needed to step in and intervene in the custody of his daughter, who was under the age of 15. So for me, it was a thing of like, if nobody is going to say, yeah, you did this thing, and like you're not even gonna, like, they're not even gonna question like the custody of your kid, then yeah, I feel like I can train with you, especially if you've never been creepy with anybody else. But if you're saying that he admitted it and he's awaiting trial, if he's awaiting trial because the police feel like he has done enough to where they're even going to charge him with a crime, then no, I'm not training with that motherfucker. Like, like the police believe that they have enough evidence to like at least charge him with the crime. Then he did something along the way that was inappropriate, and I can't train with you. Like that's what the police are there for.
Another thing is, like, I know this gets crazy. I've never been actually married, so I don't know. But it kind of bothers me because the wife is a purple belt, and she is standing by his side. And for me, I would have left, like, I don't know, when all this first happened. And I know that marriage is something that obviously it's taken seriously, but if it's to the point to where, like, if my husband has raped somebody, then I'm out the door. And to have, like, another jiu-jitsu woman who's, like, representing our community, this is supposed to be, to me, jiu-jitsu for women and for people who are in vulnerable situations is supposed to be something to try to help them. And it just feels like it doesn't feel right. I don't like it.
Well, I think that you're forgetting something, that just because you do jiu-jitsu doesn't mean you're impervious to being manipulated and controlled by a predator. And if this guy is a predator, like preying on young girls and coercing them into sexual relations, then just because his wife is a purple belt and has experience doesn't mean that she's not a victim somehow in his whole situation. And if he's manipulated and gaslighted and brainwashed her to a certain point that, like, even through rape allegations she'll stay with him, somewhere along the way she's probably a victim to him as well.
She's probably, yeah, you are totally right. Yeah, I didn't think about that side of it. But it just happens. Like, I feel like I just hate sometimes watching, like, the boys club take over, like, jiu-jitsu. Like, oh, he's fine. He can train here. Like, obviously, if his wife hasn't left him and he's still doing this, and, like, he's fine. He didn't do it. But I don't know. Just all those things, like, I don't know. I feel like we just take a billion steps back when shit like that happens. Like, if we're going to say this is not okay, and, like, we're not going to allow that type of culture into our gyms, then we need to not allow it, not say, like, okay, you can, because that.
Well,
I don't know.
I think
Josh took a good stand, and I think, like, the Third Coast Grappling and people who, like, shared, the tournaments that shared that article are like, if you have domestic charges and rape charges, you're not welcome to compete in our tournaments. Like, that was a huge positive for me, because it's kind of setting a standard. Like, that way we all know, you know what I mean? Little level of comfort for us women who have actually been through shit like that and don't want to be around those kind of men.
Well, I think, that's great that when people can take a stand and things like that, but, like, you're applying a lot of moral to the jiu-jitsu community, and at the end of the day,
it's not always like that.
It's not a religion. Like, it's just people. It's just people, and like, there's no 10 commandments of thou shalt not this or you're kicked out. You know what I'm saying? Like,
no, but it is like when you have a school and you're going to have children there a lot of the time. So if you work for a school that has a sport, okay, like baseball, softball, whatever, you can't be a coach with charges on your background like that. Like, if you're going to coach at a facility that's going to have children there, I just feel like not even a moral standard, just like to uphold community standards, like as a whole, not even just jiu-jitsu. Just, would you drop your kid off with someone that has assaulted someone?
No, but what I'm saying is like it's like it is at the end of the day, it's left up to the individual person. And and so like, you know, like we can take a stand and like say, okay, like as a jiu-jitsu community, we shouldn't do this. But when somebody doesn't, you know, they don't get kicked out of jiu-jitsu. You know, there's not like a, it's still like a based on the individual moral compass. Like, I don't think that's right. If he's like had charges brought against him, then no, like you can't come back in here until like you're proven innocent. And I'm not saying like you accepted a plea and you maintain your innocence. Like that's not good enough. Like unless you're just like 100% innocent of everything, like it was completely unsubstantiated. Like no, you can't train with me. And it's not because, I mean, it is because like I don't want them around other women, but like I don't want a person of that kind of moral character that's going to do that to people around me, period. Like I don't want anybody who's going to have sexual relations that's over the age of 18 with somebody under the age of 18. Like I don't want to be around them, period, because like that's just gross to me. So it doesn't matter if we're talking about in jiu-jitsu or just real life, like they got to get away.
Yeah, and I also feel like a little bit of a guilty by association thing could come into play there. So, like, let's say, you know, like, Gina, in school, so let's say you let someone come in like that. People are then not going to look at that person. They're going to look at that school and be like, man, they're all rapists or, you know, like, some dumb shit like that, which we know we aren't like that. But once you start allowing people like that into the gym who've been proven guilty and stuff, then it becomes an issue of the people judging the whole gym as the entirety, or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Judging, all right.
I mean, it's a whole big thing of, you know, we've said it before, and like different people have different opinions on it, but like Scott just feels like if somebody has a questionable like character, like he's not going to promote them above purple belt, because once you start getting into brown and black belt, there is that thing of you are essentially giving people like an authority almost, because like when people think of brown belts and black belts, like, oh, this means I can trust that person. And if they're starting to show signs of like low moral character, like, do you really want to be the person that awarded them that belt that like then was a symbol to other people that they can trust them and trust their kids with them and things like that? So like it's tough, but you know, you can't go based on, I think, just like the rumor of something. Like that's definitely what like our justice system is there for. And you know, charges brought, that's not as good as guilty to me, but like it's enough to say like I can't train with you right now.
Yeah, at least until it comes out and the water washes clear whatever is going to come from it.
For sure.
Did you watch the other video, the other popular sexual assault thing going on right now with Claudia and
Yes, I did see that.
Yeah.
That is another thing I talk about, like people getting like upper rank and belts and like it's that abuse of authority, kind of like the is it Harvey Weinstein? You feel like you can't say no. Thing. And I think that's kind of what her situation is. It's like, here's this black belt, this person that you put on a pedestal, like you can't say no to them because they hold something like some kind of power over you. Like whether or not they do or not, it doesn't really matter. But the fact that you feel that way is why it's up to, you know, coaches to be very careful. Like I'm not saying that you can't have relationships with your students, because relationships definitely develop, but I mean, you can't be out here just like trying to get with all of them. That's disgusting.
yeah,
that's kind of that thing of like, you know, like a single man is a single man, and you know he's gonna look for a significant other. And if you're super into jiu-jitsu, like is, you know, it's going to take another person who's super into jiu-jitsu for I think for you to be compatible, obviously for them to understand that lifestyle, or they're going to have something that they're into too. And a good example of that's like Adam Fritz, my teammate, like his lady is not into jiu-jitsu at all, but she is into powerlifting. So she already had, like, he has his thing that she understands why he has to spend hours over here. She has her thing to where he might not be into it, but he understands why she has to be, absorbed into things. And so that relationship works. But like we see it all the time, like a guy starts dating a girl, she doesn't understand jiu-jitsu. And so then
they disappear.
They disappear, the most dangerous arm drag in the world. So I think it is hard for like guys who've devoted their lives to just date a normal girl. Like, of course, it's going to be a girl who's in the gym.
It's hard for a girl to do the same.
But you can't just throw mud at the wall and see what sticks. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's disgusting. It's like, hey, jiu-jitsu girl, how about it? Like, no. Like, shouldn't you at least like her?
I genuinely feel sorry. Like, I felt sad for her watching the interview. Because I feel like whether wanted or unwanted, I think there's been several situations over my jiu-jitsu like time training that I've been like, okay, this is a little uncomfortable. Like, and I don't know if it's ever been. Some things have not ever been like enough for me to be like, okay, this is a red flag. I never want to see this person again. But there's a little bit of lines that I've seen get crossed, not just me personally, but other women that kind of get themselves into situations unwanted. And I don't know, like, it just makes you think about it makes you think about things a little bit more that go on and what's acceptable and what's not. And
I've seen a lot of things. I've never really been hit on too much by guys like in the gym. And I think it's my resting bitch face. Like, I don't look interested. I never really been like hit on like excessively or like had people like talk pretty like nasty to me or anything like that, or make me feel really uncomfortable. Like, I have had girls come to me and be like, have you ever noticed how their hand like always drifts between your legs? And I've been like, no, I really haven't. So like I've had that too, like where I've been like, I don't understand what they're coming from, but I'm always trying to be aware of it. Probably on the two sides of that, like I've seen girls who get carried away with the attention they get from guys, and so like they kind of ping around, and then they've been with 3 or 4 of them, and that I think is a problem. And I don't know what caused that problem to begin with for them to feel like they wanted to kind of hop around like that as well, but. Those are things that you got to break down by the individual. But probably the worst thing that has happened to me is like somebody sees that I'm interested and they try to IM me and be like, oh, hey, this coach, like you can ask him, I'm a good guy if you want to hook up. And that's kind of gross. Like just writing somebody and being like, hey, how about let's fuck? Like that's kind of disgusting. And the way I've always handled that was to, especially like I did have one guy in particular say, you know who my instructor is. You can write him, ask him if I'm like a pretty solid person. And I'm like, you know what? I will. And I wrote his instructor. I said, your guy's saying that, we should fuck based on your recommendation. And I find this very offensive. So maybe you should talk to him. But like, there's a difference between trying to like, hook up and like genuinely being interested in somebody because you're interested in their personality and getting to know them. And I think it's a problem when you start making your atmosphere too sexual, because it just makes everything kind of uncomfortable. And it's best, I think, to refrain from that until you've at least decided if you're more than like physically attracted to that person. But Brittany, you're kind of the I guess newer to it than the rest of us, and younger than myself. What's been kind of your experience?
And I've never really had any experiences like that. I've been into I've been in 3 different schools now. I started out at Georgetown in May, and man, everyone there was great. I actually lived with Adam Gomez there for a few months. Never once had anything like that happen. And then
I did not know you were from Georgetown.
Yeah, that's where I started out at. Then I met Joe and ended up moving in with him. Then I started going to Nice Guy. And
Are you from Georgetown?
Yeah, I am.
Huh.
Yeah. But when I started going to Nice Guy, man, I'll be the first to say, fuck Bobby Emmons. But them dudes are great. I never had any issues with them. They'll do some fucked up jokes or whatever, but I mean, it is what it is. It's nothing like that, though. They're all pretty great dudes. I mean, they're assholes, but they're still nice. They're nice assholes. And then,
I think around here we're actually pretty spoiled.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely a difference between like guys who like still are like, I'm kind of crass sometimes. Like I've been known to kind of talk crassly and things like that. But like, I think there's a big difference. Like, you know, you have your guys who like talk crassly, but then there's the guys who like just talk outright nasty, and whether or not you participate.
Exactly. Yeah.
Whether or not
for sure.
Yeah. Whether or
Definitely
not you
difference.
participate in that, like, I think there's this thing of like, there can be a desire to be a part of the boys club. And I don't feel like I've ever had an issue necessarily like being around other jiu-jitsu guys and just being normal. But I definitely feel like there's a thing where a woman may feel compelled to, if it's kind of been put on that level, to kind of get down on that level, because now I'll be accepted into the group. But I don't think that's just a jiu-jitsu thing. I think that's a thing like that happens in the military. It happens in any situation. And that's not a problem with jiu-jitsu. That's just like, that's an ages old thing that happens across the board. And that's something that they've got to learn how to deal with outside of just like the sport. But like, that's happening. If they work a job, that's happening at their work too.
Well, man, dude, that reminds me. I mean, I've never had anything like that happen to me personally, but I know the guy. I'm not going to go into names or details, but he had a girl say that while they were rolling, he was touching her inappropriately and stuff. And I think that more falls back on, okay, let's look at it objectively. For one, it's a contact sport. You're not trying to grab each other, and there's nothing sexual going through your minds when you're grappling. You're trying to break their fucking arms. You're not trying to, like, you know what I'm saying? So like, I feel like that more falls back on like the girl's character and what her standards are and what kind of attention she's wanting to bring to herself, versus I think then in a girl's mind it becomes less about the grappling and more about let's cause issues. Mm-hmm. Which that's just my opinion on it.
Like I've seen me.
Sorry.
No, you're fine. Like I've seen, like that's what I was saying earlier. Like I've seen it where somebody be like they're just all in here, and I'm like, are you sure they weren't just trying to push off and break your guard? Because like I've been working with somebody and like straight, my hand goes up and like roll the boob straight up in my hand and pinch.
I'm sure we all done it.
I did that at a Naga once. Like I pushed off this girl and like I ended up grabbing and like pinching, and I didn't mean to. And I'm like, sorry. But like, you know, I don't know. Like I've had girls be like, his hands are always in here. And I'm like, yeah, but I don't ever, like when I roll with that same person, I don't feel sexual. But to me, that doesn't mean that the guy's not doing that. And I'm not saying, you know, your situation was the same or different, but like, I feel like sometimes, you know, if they're accused on a lot, you know, it could be a thing too of like, they can pick and choose who they think they can get away with that with. So like, you have to take it serious if somebody comes to you and says that. But it's also kind of a tough situation because, like I said, I've had girls be like, oh, their hands are always like wandering. And it's also happened on occasion to me that like the same girl complains about multiple guys.
Yeah, I've had that issue before, and like they think that, and you know, I taught a women's beginner class for a bit, and it became a recurring theme with a specific student that was going on. And I had to stop myself from being so harsh because the guys that I was training with were my best friends. They were people that I would trust with my life, like not people that I would assume would ever do that. So at first I was offended. And I was like, you're not going to come in here and accuse like my people of doing this. But then I had to look back at myself. I mean, I started wrestling in 2010. So I'm looking back and I'm like, okay, as a person who never, ever touched guys like that and stuff, what did I think? Like, what were the feelings that I was feeling at that time? Like, how long did it take me to realistically get used to this type of stuff? Like, it gets really hard when you get used to doing your own thing and, like, to remember what it was like back in the day when you first started. I think, Brittany, even though you haven't been training for as long as, like, me or Gina, I think that you have Joe too. That's kind of like you guys know what normal is. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
And it's no big deal to see your husband or your boyfriend or whatever like rolling with somebody else. It doesn't spark any jealousy. It doesn't, like, you know what I mean? Like, it's
Right.
just rolling. So like to
Exactly.
us, it's not sexual at all. But I think that I have to like flip that switch and try not to be a bitch about it and be mean. And I have to be like, okay, maybe she really just doesn't, you know, like maybe they don't
Understand,
understand,
right.
like. And I need to stop and like slow down and explain some concepts, because then that way they know if like what's sexual assault and what is like normal interaction on the mat.
Right.
We were listening to, I think, Jocko Willink, and he was kind of talking about that thing of like whether some, like, sometimes, because I'm guilty of this, I'll be like, man, this thing that they're explaining to me seems so petty. But for that person, like, this is a traumatic experience. Like, trauma is trauma. And whether or not you've experienced it, like, on the level that maybe I have, is not really relevant, because still to them, like, no matter how petty I feel like it is, like, their baseline of, like, what trauma is it's still traumatic. So you have to always keep that in mind of, like, because it was really hard for me too, not to kind of just be like, oh, you're such a baby. But
Right.
like,
Yeah, right.
Trauma is trauma to somebody, and maybe they haven't had like the same experiences as you, but like, you can't discredit the fact that they are maybe going through a traumatic experience, and that they really did feel that way, and that they do need some help kind of getting through that. Like, when I first started, I didn't want to roll with guys. Like, I was like, no, nobody's touching me that way, because I didn't understand that it wasn't sexual as well. And for probably a good 2 months, I didn't work with any guys, but eventually I got over like what that touch was, and started working with guys. So, you know, not everybody's been able to have that experience that I did to ease into it. And I can definitely see how, like, you would always be questioning, like, was that appropriate or not?
Yeah. Funny. I was messaging with Josh or whatever the other day, and he was asking me about the post. You know, everyone thinks that this is the shit that I post on Instagram. He's like, why do you post anything sexual or photos like that? And then, like, you know, I know that there's guys, we were laughing about a specific grappler being in my DMs on Instagram. So, and he asked that question about, like, why post sexual stuff if this is, like, the point you're trying to get across, like, or whatever. But to me, I think I didn't even get comfortable doing that as a girl grappler until, like, a couple of years ago. And once I did, like, I realized that it's not a crime to express, like, different sides of yourself publicly and still be an athlete at the same time. And when I started coaching, like, girls wrestling, high school girls, everyone was like, why would you post that still or whatever? But, like, I remember growing up when I was wrestling, all I thought was that girls that were athletic had to, you know, the better athletes dressed like a boy, or, like, had to look a certain way or do certain things. Like, we couldn't, like, because the girl that I was looking up to, we didn't really have anyone that had different, you know, all you saw was more masculine type stuff. And so it's not exactly, I don't know, it always caused a little bit of controversy between the jiu-jitsu, the women in my community here in Louisville. And I had some arguments. I think Gina's witnessed a couple of them. But I don't know, like, I just want people to, like, be exactly who they are. And to me, asking me, like, what I'm doing or why I'm doing something like that, I kind of feel like I have to explain myself sometimes. Girls can be sexual and still be athletes.
I mean, at the end of the day, like, I don't care. Like, I don't care if
a lot of people don't, but I almost got, I mean, the way that I was bullied for a little bit, like, I think if I had a different type of personality, I might not even wanted to have done jiu-jitsu at a certain jiu-jitsu school or around a person like those that were writing about me. And I think that that's kind of mean.
Well, on that note, like, I don't care, because, like, I'm not, like, super judgmental about things like that. And, like, if it doesn't really affect me, like, I also don't care. But, like, it kind of goes for me too, though. Like when I see somebody like nitpicking on somebody else, like being in their business when it shouldn't really matter to them. Like, yeah, it makes me not want to go train with that person because I'm just like, why are you being a bully? Like, what's it to you? And why do you even care? Like, I don't really care for those kind of, like, if you post like a picture of yourself in your underwear, like, okay, fine. Like you want to post that, that's all good. But for somebody else to get on there and be like, ooh, slut, like, okay, the girl posted in her like underwear or whatever, like, okay, she felt good about herself. She wanted to post that picture or whatever. Like, you're kind of doing your thing. But like the person that's like getting shitty with the other person, like, I don't want to train with that
Over
person.
that?
I'm kind of over it because I'm like, man, what a bully. Like,
and
mind
honestly,
your business.
like it got under my skin. Everyone, you know, I think I clapped back at her like pretty hard, but it did hurt my feelings. Like, and so, but then after that, I was like, you know what? Fuck you. I'm gonna fucking rub this shit all over. Like, I'll DM you my fucking nudes. Like, that's how I feel about it. Like, I mean,
it's that thing of like when there's one finger pointing, when I'm pointing one finger out, there's three pointing back at me, and I just can't. I have a rule, like, unless it's something really serious, and for the most part, if I do get on in an argument on social media, it's usually to be like, why are you being a hater? But I don't know. I can't get on board with stuff like that. So like, if anything, like, it does make me want to train with people who get super judgy, because I'm like, if it's not affecting you, and I mean,
why? Who cares?
My thing is, if I'm scrolling through like fucking Facebook or Instagram, unless it's about like jiu-jitsu or MMA, I'm probably not gonna stop and look just because I don't care. Like what you do in your personal life, fuck ever. It's on you. Yeah. Whatever. But now, like you said, someone's just being a bully all the time about it. And it's like, why would I want to be around you? Like, you're negative as fuck. That's not needed. Like, I feel like jiu-jitsu is a positive thing. Why would you want to bring it down?
Right.
Yeah.
I mean,
exactly.
I know there are people out there who like don't exactly live up to the standard that I would like to see them do, or I feel like they're going about getting attention the wrong way. But and if they don't ask for my advice, I'm not going to tell them how I feel about it. Like,
right, like we're all adults.
Yeah, you're grown up.
I think I openly kind of opened up a can of worms that I shouldn't have. I wrote on the Kelly Patrick Show page. I said that I wanted to fight Jenny Padilla. And I said it was like no hesitation, and just completely was like, fuck this bitch. Like, I will fight her, like, on behalf of everyone. But then after thinking about it, I kind of realized that maybe that wasn't the right approach either. I don't know.
Well, but, I mean, I'll say, like, do I feel like she uses a proper approach to fit into the MMA community? Like, not for me, you know, like, it's not exactly like, oh, you know, but at the same time, like, she's got to live her life and learn her lessons on her own. And if she wanted to come train, like, okay, like, we'll train, you know, as long as you train and you know, you don't find time to like sidetrack training with that shit. Like, okay, like, we'll train. But my approval doesn't really matter. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's.
That's what I had to get to. I had to realize that. I after I did it and like all the comments and shit, I realized, I was like, you shouldn't have done that. You're better than that. And who gives a fuck? But I think in my mind, I was like, I think there was a lot of people when I first came, or when I first started training a little bit more seriously, because I felt like I kind of had to like go to gyms, and then like once I trained with some of these people, like I earned their respect a little bit, or like if I competed and then.
Oh, you seen that?
See you, Brittany.
Sorry.
I see that.
He's being a butt. My bad.
Oh, it's all good.
You know, like after you proved like, okay, I really do jiu-jitsu, and I really do train hard and everything else, I felt like I earned a little bit of respect, but I felt like Jenny was kind of like, just kind of shitting on like the actual work and training that we've actually done to build relationships with the people in this community, like the Fergusons, and like I mean, I've trained with them. They beat my ass. Like I've like almost guided their gym, and then it's like the relationship that she's like building and like what she's being or like trying to get in the community with is a completely different route. They're not really the way of women's MMA should go.
Yeah, but like at the end of the day, like people are going to treat you how like how you command that they treat you, and like whether or not she demands the same behavior from somebody that I do doesn't really affect me. And if somebody, like say somebody does talk to me in the manner that they talk to her, and like if I didn't approve of that, like I don't have to put up with that. Like I can leave that situation. So to say that like you're bringing women down or you're doing this or you're doing that, like I know that I don't have to put up with those things, and I'm not going to put myself in a situation to be talked to in any kind of way that I don't approve of. So, you know, whether I approve of what she's doing and how she interacts with people or not doesn't really matter. Like, I mean, I listened to that episode of the Kelly Patrick Show, and like there were some cringy things on there, and I was like, oh, you know. But at the same time, like Paul and Kelly have never talked to me that way, and Daryl Ray has like said some inappropriate things to me and like and stuff like that. And you know what? I've been like, you know what? I don't have to deal with you. Stay away from me. And that's the gist of it. Like I don't have to go train with him. I don't have to be around him. Like if I were invited to be on a podcast where he's going to be there, like I could say no. And if I showed up somewhere where he was at, then I would immediately leave. Like there's nothing that requires that just because somebody else was willing that I have to. So
yeah. I think it was a lesson that I kind of learned in public. So I'll admit that probably wasn't my brightest moment. Do I still feel like I would like to, you know, kind of the Kentucky part of me is like, fuck yeah, I'll still beat her ass, which I will gladly. But
well,
I probably
you guys maybe agree with this. Like I feel like you just want to fight her, and like that's like something that normally you wouldn't give a shit about. It just kind of adds to it. Like,
yeah, it's like now at this point, I don't know. I feel like it'd be a good fight for me anyways.
Yeah, but oh well.
Joe and I have had conversations.
We're talking about who I think we're talking about, right?
What?
Yes.
I said I just got here. We are talking about who I think we're talking about, correct?
Situational, yes. Go ahead, Brittany. What was you going to say?
Joe and I have had conversations kind of similar about this type of thing. What he's kind of told me is that if someone gets talking down and just doing shit like that, is all you gotta do is look at, which I've not accomplished anything yet. I will, but all you gotta do is look at him and be like, well, what have you achieved? What have you won? And then conversations instantly shut down.
Yeah.
Then it's like, until you do what I do, then don't talk to me. Don't come at me with that type of shit.
I feel like I wish that. I mean, shit. If I had Joe's ability, it'd probably be like that too.
Hey, I have a good question, Brittany. So,
yes.
like, I've rolled with you. You're getting close to your blue belt, I'm sure.
I don't know about that.
That would just be kind of my opinion that you probably are.
I think you're close to it.
Would you want to get that? Do you want to get that from Joe, or what are your all's feelings on that?
Absolutely fucking not. I want him to have nothing to do with my belt. We've had that discussion as soon as we got together. Joe will not be the one belting me.
Why not?
It's just that we want a fine line between husband and wife and student and coach. And as much as I love Joe, which I do love him from the bottom of my heart, he's not my coach. He does teach me a lot and he helps me a lot, but we're keeping that line there.
Does he coach you at tournaments, Brittany?
He does. He corners me, and I like it because I need someone loud, and Joe does not care to scream. I remember, man, dude, so there was a tournament in January I did, and I was doing shit I wasn't supposed to be. I'll give him that. And he was getting mad. He screamed, and when he's like, Brittany, fucking look at me. And I looked over. He's like, triangle, and instantly it's done. But it's just like I need that type of anger towards me.
Need somebody to be loud.
Exactly.
Oh, Emily clicked off again. So I guess when you do get it, it'll be from Josh Hayden.
Yes, whenever it happens, it will. But I'm not expecting nothing like that to come. I mean, it is what it is. I've learned not to expect it, or even just talking about it. I'm just like, man, whatever. Even if I don't get it in a year, 5 years from now, I'm still going to train. I'm still going to compete. I'm still got plans outside of jiu-jitsu I'm working towards, so we'll see what happens.
What are your goals for 2020? Like, what's on the menu for you this year?
Get out of fucking quarantine.
Exactly. No, I've not really talked about a whole lot just because, man, I've learned that negativity kills more dreams than anything does. But, I'm hoping, I'm working towards it, hopefully by the end of this year, which it might be pushed back now that all this quarantine shit's going on. But eventually I'm wanting to get in the cage, so we'll see.
Nice.
Yeah, we'll see what happens.
Nice. We need to get together and do some sparring and stuff.
For sure, which, speaking of, I'm actually getting ready to go train, so I got to hop off here.
All right.
All right, see ya.
See y'all.
Emily was not able to maintain her connection, so she did have to kind of jump off here.
What an interesting series of conversation today.
A lot of fun. But we do have a comment from Tabitha Rainey. He said, my husband is one of my coaches, but we decided long ago that he would not be the one to promote me in any way so that other people don't take it as the wrong way. It was earned and will be seen as that. So I get it, which, kind of gets to a point that I was going to make too.
Do you want your black belt from, obviously Scott, or would you rather get it from Eddie?
I would be happy with either one. I've taken a very long time to kind of get my promotions, and Scott and I both worry that people will be like, oh, of course she's his wife. So that's one of the reasons.
You've been training for a long ass time though.
Right. And I obviously compete in jiu-jitsu better than I do MMA. But for us, it's like this thing of like with competition, like competition doesn't lie. And if you see me get promoted, it's most likely going to be after I've hit a few competitions and done really well, because the mats don't lie. Competition doesn't lie. Like when I got my blue belt, because I think Nikki and I, like, that's where we met each other, was competing back when we were white and blue belts. When I was a white belt, I was interested in getting my blue belt. So I went and entered the Bluegrass Jiu-Jitsu Open as a white belt in the blue belt tournament division. And that's where I competed against Nikki, and I competed against another girl. I can't remember her name now. I think it was Lacey. And I ended up tapping both of them out, I think, or winning one of them on points. I can't remember. But then I got my blue belt after that. So that's where my blue belt came from. My purple belt, like I was competing as a blue belt and just winning all my competitions. So like then I got my purple belt. And it's the same thing with my brown belt. Like I had went to quite a few competitions and, tapped out the purple belts that I was competing against. And, I wasn't winning just on points and things like that. Like I was actually tapping out other purple belts, bigger and smaller. And the last one was the one where I went against the purple belts who, like, I competed about 135. Like I was competing against girls who were like 150. And I think the other girl was like 215, and they were purple belts. And I was tapping them out. So Scott, like we knew, like I kind of knew it was close, but I had started, because I started winning a lot of stuff. So it was just that thing for him of like, if I'm going out here and I'm tapping out other people from other schools who are at my level and the same size or bigger, like then it's warranted that I can get my next promotion. So, like for me, competition is the way that I've been able to settle that. Like if you, and you know what, like I roll with everybody that comes into my gym. Like if you want to come in and roll and say that it's fake, that's fine. Like I'll roll with you. No problem. So for me, that's kind of like been the way to kind of answer that question. But I think it would be a little more difficult if you didn't really compete, and people are always going to talk shit. So what difference does it make? But at the end of the day,
I've learned that either way, like someone's always going to talk trash. Like, doesn't really matter what you're doing.
Yeah. So like, but that's kind of my answer is like, I competed and got promoted after I was doing well. And if you were like, I brag about myself. If you were following those posts, you see, like I was doing well against legitimate people, like I earned this through my hard work and no other way. But like, that's always been my response. But I don't think that people should feel it's necessary to respond in the same way that I have. If Tabitha got her, what is she now? She blue belt?
Rainy?
Yeah, she's the one that
I think
commented.
Tabitha's a blue belt. Whoop!
I mean, if
Tabitha's a blue belt at 4 seasons, I believe.
Right. I mean, if she got her next belt from her husband, who's, I don't know if he's a brown or black belt, but if she got that next belt from him, like, who am I to judge and say that it's legitimate or not? And secondly, like, we're not teammates. Why should she care what I think? Like, I understand why she would, but
Yeah.
you know,
Do
like,
you feel like, not just your gym, but do you feel like as far as belt promotions go across the board, do you think that competition is key?
no, because like, I mean, like, I'm able-bodied and I can compete, and like I have the ability to do so. And so, like, if you're able-bodied and you can do it, then yeah, I think that you should, especially if rank is that important to you, then yeah, you should go compete. But if rank's not super important to you, I think that coaches have to base it on the factors that surround your situation. Like, how long have you been training? What factors have held you back? What factors have you allowed to hold you back that shouldn't have? And things like that. Like, Tabitha has 3 kids. And
Yeah, I think they have 3.
I think she has like 3 kids, and she has, I think, the son that she works with the congenital heart defects and things like that. Like, I don't know how much she has the ability to train or how much time she's put in or what her skill level is, but that should be something that she's able to, that they're able to kind of look at and say, well, is the skill level there? Do you know your stuff, and is it deserving? And like, based on your experience with other people, like, somebody with the experience, like, and Scott even didn't just like up and decide to promote me. Like, he has his friend Patches, who's a black belt. He has his friend Donnie Wallace, who's a black belt. And he when it's difficult as a man, you can't just be like, I'm all knowing. Like, he went to his peers and said, hey, I'm thinking about promoting my wife to brown belt. I feel like she's there, but like, I would really appreciate your honest opinion. And I think Patches was like, oh yeah, definitely. But he should have some peers that are able to kind of give him some feedback. And if he doesn't, like, that's unfortunate, but like, I feel like peers who are able to be honest with you would be a very good resource to have it at that point. Like, for Scott, I don't think it's like, even when he's thinking about promoting somebody, like, he doesn't need to, but like, sometimes he'll talk to me about them and be like, well, they've won this and they've won that. And, he feels like it's a representation of him. And as much as he doesn't need my approval, he still likes to sit and kind of like talk it through. And I think that's important for anybody.
Yeah. So, at the Queen City tournament, you guys had a person get their blue belt. So like, when that happens, like, do you guys just bring it? And like, if they don't win that day, do you just take it back home?
Well, for us, like, we had been talking about Will getting his blue belt for some time. Like, this wasn't just something that we woke up that morning and said, hey, Will deserves his blue belt only if he wins today. Like, we knew that he was getting close to it. But he is somebody who has the ability to compete. There's nothing that is holding him back. So like, other than his own, head. And so it was a thing of like, if he does well, it wasn't like if he wins. If he does well today, I'll probably promote him. What probably would have happened if he didn't win that day is we would have went back to the gym and at the next class promoted him. So yeah, like, definitely we would have taken it home and decided, like, like, there was no shame in what happened, but yeah, it's kind of a nice thing when they win and then they get the blue belt too. Like,
yeah, I've always wondered that. When I was at Worlds, actually, the girl that won my division got her purple belt on the podium. Yeah. So it's just like,
I mean, they're close, obviously. So
I mean, yeah. So
I don't think for a lot of people it's like this rash decision of, blue belt. It's probably coming.
Yeah. I get it. I'm so excited for the gym to open back up. I'm just ready to train.
You and me both.
Ready
and
to train.
I'm excited
back
that
into the swing of things and competing again. I'm hoping that the tournament. I know that Scott Smith's tournament was rescheduled, and a lot of other ones actually were.
Well, we had it in-house. We rescheduled.
When did you change it to?
indefinite, like
Oh,
never
like
be
you don't have a
open.
date yet.
No,
I
of
guess
course. No, I
since
mean
it's at
nobody
your
does.
gym.
Yeah, nobody really has a date yet. We can't really decide that, so I don't know. We'll see. But we'll.
Sucks because
It
I
does.
think everyone's just fiending for some jujitsu, and man, this year's gonna be weird when you look back at like. I mean, I know a lot of people don't care, but like the rankings for all year long, you compete at tournaments like I guess IBJJF wise to get ranked, and then when worlds come around, you see you have an idea of where you're at and like how you'll be seated in the world's tournament and stuff like that. So that's gonna be all wonky if there is a world this year.
I'm sure all that'll straighten out relatively quickly. Like when people start competing again, like it'll all kind of even itself out. Like I don't think that that's going to be that big of a deal.
Yeah,
it's a thing of like it's nice to know where you stand, but like you knew where you stood when this happened
before,
and now it's just going to be a matter of getting back in there. And it may take there might be some.
It's just lasting so fucking long.
Isn't it though? Well, I think
mean,
the thing.
What are we at? 4 weeks now?
Something like that. But I mean, what was it? China was like 3 months, and Italy's still going through it. And that's probably the one thing that kind of kills me about like the crazy conspiracies is like some people are like, this is our government doing this to us and so on and so on. I'm like, you realize that this is happening outside of our bubble.
It's not just the United States.
Like, I don't know if you've watched the news or not, but like this is happening. I mean, I saw somewhere where they were talking about it's happening in Colombia. Like this isn't just happening in the United States. Like this is happening in Canada. It's all over the world. Like this isn't something that's happening to me. This is something that's happening to everybody in the world. And do I think that like some of it's like overblown? Maybe. I mean, I don't know. I'm not a doctor. I've not seen anything personally happen, so I can't really say. But I think that the restrictions are a little stringent. Like I kind of like Sweden's idea of how they did it.
Yeah.
Older people and immunocompromised people, like quarantine yourselves, and the rest of you guys kind of let's move on with it. But
I feel like Sweden kind of always has the upper hand. Like,
well,
they have gone the right way with a lot of things.
I mean, but maybe they haven't. They're just barely into this thing. We might find out in a month that they really fucked it up. So like, this isn't something that any of us have been through. Like Scott and I talked about that back in that podcast. He's 50 years old. Like he's in that age group to where this could be very damaging to him. And it's this thing of like, when are you going to close the gym? Like he's 50 years old. He's owned our gym for 25 years. He's never been through anything like this. Like he doesn't have the answer. Like nobody does.
Has your gym, like, were you able to file for unemployment or get any benefit like for the gym, or
we just got they did release that. We just got a letter today saying that we're going to receive like so much a week that we normally wouldn't qualify for unemployment, but now we're going to. And a lot of people have been like, oh, well, you can get like these small business loans, but Scott and I have worked it out into such a way that like we have no debt. Like we own our cars, we own our house. The gym building is not ours, but we're not in debt for that business whatsoever. And like I think we have like one credit card that's like less than $1,000. Like, not to get into my financials too much, but it's one of those things to where like we just kind of feel like, why would I go get in debt?
Yeah.
And risk losing a business that I might lose anyways, when I have no debt. So that's kind of been our stance on it, is like we really don't have any debt. Like we can hunker down and like try to bite the bullet a little bit on some things. But not everybody's in that same situation. Some people have a lot of overhead. And fortunately for us, the lady who does own the building, like when we talked to her and told her, we had to close down in March, she was just like, everybody's having a hard time. I'm not going to put that added pressure on you. So like, she's been very forgiving for us and isn't even going to talk to us about what to do until after the quarantine is released. So as of right now, like we're good to go. Like as long as
that's
nothing.
Awesome. That's relieving to say the least.
It was because like, that's probably the one time I've actually physically cried during this whole thing, was like when she said not to worry about it right now. Okay. Like if we can just make it on some unemployment, then when things do open back up, like AFS Academy will be up and running. So
Yeah, I got my letter. Actually, I got it out of the mail today, and it says I get a whole $180 a week.
Hey, that's what mine said.
I was just like, what is this?
I guess we can eat on that. Like, that was the thing. It's like it might be hard for us, other than being as long as we can eat, we're going to be okay. And we've been very fortunate in, like I said, the debt situation and the landlord situation. But
there's no stores open, so we can't really buy anything else.
No, and I'm not an Amazon shopper. The big hurdle I think that we'll have is when it does open back up. There are a lot of people other than us that are going to be kind of broke. So when things do open back up, like, what's our enrollment going to look like? And when rent does come due, is our enrollment going to be up enough to support that? So that is.
Do you guys have anybody still paying now?
Yeah, actually, a lot of our members have been very kind and generous to us, and still been sending us like donations, because we are doing online training. We have a private group where we do online training on Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday. So like, I'll do a DDP yoga session, then I'll do a session for it's either youth or it's a beginner. And it primarily focuses on people who are mismatched in size, or they have it might be a more advanced person with a less advanced person. Mm-hmm. Or it might be like, say you have a kid whose parent is willing to let them work together. So we have to take into consideration that those people train together, or you're training like with a pillow or a big stuffed animal. So all those techniques are taking those people into consideration.
That's good. That's awesome.
I teach that. And so that's in our private group. We do a live stream. And then afterwards, Scott comes in and he teaches all the fancy stuff that, he'll teach it on me and Chris, and then we'll practice it together. He'll go over mistakes we're making. And then after that, he'll add some Muay Thai in there for people to either shadow box or work on a bag, or if they have a partner, work together. So like, we still have people who are being very supportive of us. And
how is your son doing through this?
Man, I have the best fucking kid. No problem.
No complaints?
No problem. If I want to train, it doesn't matter, because I'll usually do 3 or 4 workouts a day, like whatever it is I want to do. He's like, okay, I'll go do that. Oh, by the way, I decided, because my mother-in-law and father-in-law live next door to us.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the reasons that we tried to stay away from people, so that we can still
interact with them.
Yeah, interact with them, because they live we share a driveway. But he'll go over there, and he had his papa help him build a birdhouse. So he's been painting on that for days. He does his he gets up in the morning, he does his chores, he does his schoolwork, and then he'll go find something to do, whether it's working out with me or my kid has had no fucks to give about any of this, and he works a job. Honestly, the biggest thing that he's worried about is he's turning 16 in 15 days, mm-hmm. and he wants to drive and get his license. And that's it.
Is the DMV even open, or the place you go?
I have no idea. But he don't even have anywhere to drive. I let it
I can't go anywhere.
We have a church parking lot I take him up and let him practice driving on. Yeah. But he'll be very happy to drive me to Walmart when he can drive. So
yeah, that's
a mama's
crazy.
Boy.
That sucks to turn 16 in the middle of a quarantine.
I know.
I see Natalie's been with you. Is Natalie staying with you?
Yeah, her greenie is at risk due to some health issues, and like I said, she was getting kind of depressed, because the neighbors would be outside and they're getting in her face, and her granny's worried about exposure and things like that. So she asked if she could come stay with me because she gets to work out. So she stays with me for 5 to 7 days at a time.
Yeah.
We stay away from everybody during the whole time she's here, to make sure that nobody's going to get sick. And then, obviously her granny's not going anywhere. And so then, if she wants to go home and see her, she'll go home. But then she comes right back after a day or two. And, our households are they're not going outside and doing and that's kind of the thing. It's they're not going outside and doing anything and getting exposed to anybody. you know, and then she's only coming here. So like she is kind of staying with me um, pretty for a pretty significant amount of time. But like she's such an easygoing kid.
Yeah.
That like
she's usually hanging around everybody and doesn't usually cause any problems.
She's such a good kid, man. Like, and for me, like for my own, I think that's a big one is like for my own mental health. Like I need people around. I get, and that's one of the things that jujitsu did for me. Like I get really depressed. Like I'm one of those people that if I didn't have like activity and sunshine, like I have a hard time getting out of bed.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I was struggling. Like, I didn't want to break quarantine, and like, I know everybody was like super pissed at me, like, for doing it, but I feel like I didn't really have a choice. I mean, I've literally been. You've seen my apartment; it's not big. Like,
no, and it's dark.
Like, yeah, so
there's not a lot of windows
here, like daily by myself, so it gets super, super, super depressing.
I'm sunburned. Because
really,
we stay outside from the time the sun comes up until it goes out at night. Like, and we built a fire pit and things like that. Like, I think that's one of the things that people are kind of having a hard time understanding is like they're like, you shouldn't be going anywhere or buying anything non-essential. But I don't know that they understand like the impact it's going to have on my mental health if I'm not doing some shit. Like,
yeah, I did order. Or today I went to Lowe's and got some flowers and some pots. I'm gonna repot some flowers for my porch. Like
same.
I got some house plants to keep me busy because I literally am going crazy.
Yeah,
I have absolutely nothing to do, and it's honestly horrible.
Yeah, like we're playing. You know, this is kind of personal, but like I was medicated like for depression and anxiety before I found jiu-jitsu, and I admittedly say I drank too much and things like that. So like I know I have those issues without the activity.
Yeah,
and
at the beginning of the quarantine, I mean, I drank like the first four days, and I was like, okay. I listened to a Jocko podcast, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna start setting my alarm again, at least getting up by 8:30, because give me a little bit of time to sleep in. Usually I wake up at like 6:15, so I'll wake up by 8:30, and I started making my bed every day. So every day I make my bed. And I treat it like I have coffee in the morning. I treat it like I'm going, you know, having a regular day. Like, so it's that kind of thing has made me feel more productive, even if I'm not actually doing more productive things.
And that's what we do too. And I think that's why Natalie likes it here is because like we get up and we have our time in the morning where we'll sit like, and we're getting up at like 6:37 in the morning. And we're having a little bit of coffee time, and Scott loves pumping us all full of information. So he's like showing us videos on YouTube of stuff, and we're watching. And so that lasts, you know, for however long it's going to last, usually 30, 45 minutes. And then we all say, all right, TV time's over. Like it's time to get to chores. And like she's here. So her chore is like washing dishes, which is normally Chris's chores, and, you know, cleaning cat litter. And then I'm getting dishes done. And like we're doing these things. And so, you know, after we get like our chores done, then it's like, what's our first physical activity for the day? Yoga or what's it going to be? So
okay, like Natalie's running video was the absolute funniest thing I've ever seen.
But I mean, it's important. Like we're also doing a garden. So like, I think it's just really important that you do try to keep some kind of structure and schedule. And that's the big thing is like, you don't think it's important, but like, it's so important that it's important to this little kid, you know, like it's more important than people think it is. And
I ordered an Amazon painting kit. So I'm going to try to paint.
Good deal.
I mean, you have to find ways to entertain yourself, or you literally will go insane.
For sure.
Like,
I don't know.
This is the only time I've ever wished that I had a boyfriend or like a husband, because I'm bored out of my mind. Like, I have nothing to do. But I don't know. I'm trying. I gotta go out and finish potting that stuff up. But
yeah, I gotta go
say. Jacob Prost, Shauna. Do you remember Shauna from the time that I hosted?
Mm-hmm.
She was gonna try to come on, but she couldn't today. I told her we'll do another live in a couple days.
Yeah, for sure.
Because this is easy. Now that we figured it out, it's easy. So, but goodbye, everyone, and we'll catch you later.
See you guys. Thanks for listening.